Let's talk about Hitler.
That'll make sense later.
I'm immaculately conceived.
I don't know what to do.
I swear I'm not stupid.
Take it or leave it. Sometimes you just want to leave it.
If I gotta borrow my mom's underwear, I'm borrowing her underwear.
You just, yeah.
Misa likes the Jar Jar Binks.
I'm not gonna edit it out.
Oh no.
I don't know. Like I think I'm just pretty great. Just staying on the
Sucks to
planet.
suck.
Why are you saying it with a question mark?
Clap, bitch.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Action.
And we're live. I'm Anna.
And I'm Jessica.
And this is Why Are You Yelling? Welcome back to another F1 Academy race review. Today we are recapping round 4, Montreal,
Yes.
Canada. Oh, Canada.
Keep going.
That's all I got, folks. You're welcome. We were racing
Good job. It was beautiful.
Thank you. I'm like, and moving on. We were racing at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And so before we get into our race recap, we're going to do a quick refresher on what F1 Academy is and kind of the formatting of it because it's still relatively new. And I think all of us could use a good refresher.
It's been a minute since we've raced, and maybe some of you have showed up here because you watched the Netflix documentary, or maybe you just happened to click and because you're like, what the hell are they talking about? So here's your refresher.
So F1 Academy is Formula One's all-women series. It was created to help give female drivers another and a different pathway to kind of like get to the pinnacle of motorsport, basically. Yeah. So it's equivalent to like a Formula 4 and F4 series. So think of like the GB F4 categories, the kind of like more local ones. It's equivalent to that. So like if you do well in F1 Academy, there's a potential that you could go on to race in like an F3 series or in different motorsport series. But basically it's a way for female drivers to get experience and to get exposure to motorsport in a way that they may not otherwise be able to. And so there are 18 drivers on the grid that are, is it 17 of them are permanent?
Yes.
And the 18th is a wild card. See, even I need a refresher. So all 18 drivers are backed by either a Formula One team or one of the series official partners. So we've got like McLaren and Ferrari and Mercedes and Red Bull Racing Ford. But then we also have like Tommy Hilfiger and we have Charlotte Tilbury.
We have American Express and Gatorade showed up and they sponsored the wild card, which we'll get into later. And so that was like an orange car looked pretty cool, but they're always getting new sponsors. Like Wella just joined as well. So yeah.
Each round, each race weekend features up to 2 free practice sessions, 1 qualifying session, and 2 races, 1 on Saturday and 1 on Sunday. One of the races is a reverse grid for the top, is it 8 finishers? So they do qualifying, top 8 finishers, they do a reverse grid order. And then for the other race, it's just the regular qualifying order. Everyone drives the same car. It's the Totus F4 car, and they use the same Auto Technica engine. So every round of F1 Academy has a wild card entry. And so this is one driver that they are only there for that one race weekend. And typically it's someone who's more local to whatever track they're racing at, or they're at least from the country. Normally.
Not this time.
Or they have been in the last several.
Yeah, they have been in the last several. This time when I saw, I was like,
Oh, not
different sides of the pond.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the overview of what F1 Academy is and the race format and how it all sort of works. So now we can jump into our kind of picture of what we were dealing with after Miami and heading into Canada.
Yes. So going into the weekend, this is where we were right after Miami because it's been a while. So we probably need a refresher on that. So before we jump into Montreal, let's take a quick look at where things stood after Miami. So the championship picture, Maya Weug held onto her lead in the Drivers' Championship by just 1 point after the only race in Miami. Dorian closed the gap in the title fight with a standout drive, charging from P6 to take a thrilling win in the sole race of round 3. Chloe Chambers was set to start on pole of race 2, but weather had other plans. The race was postponed due to rain, but the good news, it was rescheduled to run in Canada with the original grid still locked in, which we found out later. At the time, they just said postponed, so we didn't know it was going to happen. And then later on, they were like, guess what? we're having 3 races in Montreal.
We found time to squeeze it in between the F1 race.
Yeah, we're like, okay. So the team standings at the time, so Campos Racing remained in the lead and managed to build a more comfortable cushion over MP Motorsport, stretching their advantage from 2 points to 14 points. And so the things to consider going into Canada, so nobody had been on this track. So rookies, veterans, everything was equal footing. Nobody had testing on this track. Nobody has driven on this track in other series before. So nobody had any experience going into Canada, and typically they do have testing sessions at tracks like that, or they would have an extra practice session. But because they had the extra race, I'm assuming that's why there wasn't an extra practice session, and they just didn't have time to do testing beforehand.
Oh, I wanted to mention real quick. So the drivers not having any they had never been at this track before. I saw a clip online of it was Dorian. She was sitting with George Russell, and he basically had on a computer pulled up. He had the onboard from his qualifying lap, and he was talking her through the whole lap because she had never raced on this track before. And he was like explaining to her, okay, this is how I took this corner, and this is what I did here, and it looks like I'm kind of out of control and really slippery, but he's like, it's on purpose. You got to take a lot of curb and all this stuff. And I was like, oh, that was really like cool that it's, or at least, and it could have just been for the photo op and to post a clip of like, look, we're supporting.
Oh, it's probably both.
We're supporting the female drivers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm sure, which fine if
Mercedes
it is.
in general seems to be very supportive, which makes sense because Toto is married to Susie Wolf, and Susie Wolf is like the director of F1 Academy. So I've noticed that, like, because Kimi Antonelli was also seen there, like hanging out with Mercedes and Susie during one of the races. So it makes sense that like it's George Russell, and Mercedes in general seems to be really supportive.
I'm like, it's nice to see that because again, the point of F1 Academy is for these female drivers to get some experience and to learn more about, driving these types of cars and driving on these tracks. And like for them, like, do you know how like invaluable that is to be able to sit down one-on-one with a current, not just a current F1 driver, but one who's like doing very well.
He's doing well. He's got podiums.
Yeah, he's won races this year. So to be able to sit down with him one-on-one and him talk you through his mindset and like his strategy for the way he handles a track.
Yeah.
I mean, that's invaluable experience.
Oh, yeah.
So that was nice to see. Again, the more cynical part is kind of like, they're just doing it for the photo op. But regardless, she still got the experience.
Oh, yeah. I mean, George Russell strikes me as the type to probably care about something like that because he seems like the do-good type.
Yeah.
And we make fun of him for it a little bit sometimes, but I think that he probably he was probably asked to do it, but I'm sure he was happy to do it.
Yeah.
But
I got that vibe that he was like, okay.
Yeah.
They were like, can you do this? And he's like, yeah, sure.
Yeah. So like we said, they equal footing. So like it's the opposite of Miami, where in Miami, all the veteran drivers that have a year in F1 Academy already, they had been to Miami already, so they had experience there, but now nobody had any sort of experience, and it was like an equal playing field. So the only experience they had was like, if they got to sit down and talk to somebody about it, or the simulator that they have. So, and also going into Canada, Maya and Dorian were separated by just 1 point headed into the weekend. And Chloe Chambers was not far behind. She was only 8 points off of Dorian, who was in second place at the time. So with Chloe starting race 1 from pole, the championship fight between the three was still wide open. And now we will jump into our qualifying highlights before we get to all 3 races, which was nuts.
Okay, for our qualifying highlights. So Maya Weug is our championship leader. She had a difficult day with qualifying. She had some electrical issues, failed to log a lap in practice, struggled again in qualifying. She ended up qualifying P15. So that kind of set her up for a tough weekend and added some tension to our title fight.
Yeah, it was rough. She was a part of the Ferrari curse this weekend. It was so bad. That's all I could think about watching her. I was like, oh, bless, honey. It's that car. It's that Ferrari car. I'm sorry.
You put that prancing pony on it and it's just, It
was rough.
So Chloe Chambers secured her 3rd straight pole. She clocked her qualifying lap late in the session, coming in at 1 minute, 38.125 seconds, ultimately beating out teammate Alicia Plomowski by about 0.3.
Yeah, they called it a mega lap because all weekend in practice and in qualifying, it was Alicia, then Chloe, Alicia, then Chloe. And then it was like, and it was always by like tenths. And then all of a sudden, Chloe puts this mega lap in, and we were like, oh.
Where'd that come from?
Oh my. I know where it came from. It came from my girl. That's my girl.
It's one of those things where I think, I mean, you see it even with like F1 qualifying, where they kind of will do just enough in certain parts of qualifying to get through to the next round, or they'll do just, but then when the pressure's really on and it really matters, they just pull out craziness where they like are put, like, it's like, give it every single thing you've got, take every single corner at its absolute limit, and then you get a mega lap, I guess.
A mega lap. That's what they called it. And I was like, there we go. Get it, Chloe.
So after qualifying, it was a Campos Racing front row lockout. So Pomorski was in P2 after briefly holding provisional pole earlier in the session. Dorian racing for Mercedes qualified P3, roughly 4 tenths behind the Campos duo. And early pace setters like Alba Larson, Leah Block, and Ella Lloyd briefly topped the times before being bumped down the order as conditions improved. Ella Lloyd took P4, followed by Tina Hausman in P5, and Emma Felbermyr in P6. Rookie Nina Gaidman.
Yep. Good job.
Oh my God. Stars. 10s across the board. Rookie Nina Gaidman put in a strong showing to claim P7. I almost said P4. I don't know where that came from.
Because you just said P4 for Ella Lloyd.
Maybe that's
and
what
it's
it was.
like, it's right above it. Yeah.
I said P7.
P7?
7. Chloe Chong qualified P8, which gave her reverse grid pole for race 2. Leah Block and Rafaela Ferreira completed the top 10. This qualifying session set the starting order for race 3 and also determined the reverse grid lineup for race 2. The race 1 grid had already been decided using the race 2 starting order that was originally planned for Miami before. So the first race 1 was the makeup race from Miami. And then our race 2 and 3 this weekend are our normal planned races for Montreal.
Yeah.
Cool.
Nice. So we can hop into our race 1 recap. And again, this is the Miami makeup race. So this was supposed to be the main race in Miami that got washed out. And so that is the grid order that it used. So to start things off, the winner was Dorian, followed by Ella Lloyd and Nina Gaidman. Our biggest mover, so we kind of like to highlight who like stood out the most during that race. And I think the easiest way to do that for the most part is who gained the most places. So our biggest mover was Nina Gaidman. She climbed from 13th to 4th. And after Emma Felbermyr's disqualification, Gaidman was bumped up to 3rd in the final classification. So she was on the podium, but not like you wouldn't have seen her on the podium, but post-race, that's what happened. So the things that happened during this race, Dorian kept it clean in a chaotic start. She took the lead on lap 2 after contact between Chloe Chambers and Alicia Palmowski. Alicia pretty much locked up and then sort of slid into Chloe, which was devastating to me because I'm a Chloe Chambers girl. I think she is so talented and she's just cool. She's like an Oscar Piastri, cool as a cucumber, and just locks it in and goes. And so I was very excited for her this weekend. And then I was devastated because, I mean, her and her teammate, I mean, they're 2 Red Bull drivers. You know, it's like Alicia Palmowski is like the Red Bull driver. Chloe Chambers is the Red Bull Ford driver. And they were just at it. And so, which is kind of on brand for Red Bull teammates. So, you know, Alicia, she is a rookie. I think, you know, it is what it is. She slid into Chloe and knocked her out, ended up kind of ripping off the front wing a bit. And then she was forced to pit. And then, I mean, her race was she finished the race and she ended up having like fastest lap at times as well, but it was not great. Because of that incident, Dorian ended up taking the lead of the race and she maintained it through the end, even with the safety car later on by another incident. And it was her 3rd win of the season. And she is now, because of race 1, she retook the championship lead by 24 points. So she took it which was horrible for Maya because Maya just had a horrible weekend. So her practice was bad. Her qualifying was bad.
We went from a 1-point difference to a 24-point difference.
Yeah, in just one race.
Ugh.
So Ella Lloyd finished P2, having climbed through the field and held off challengers under pressure. Ella Lloyd was just there the whole weekend. She was just at the top the whole weekend. I'm like, what is this McLaren driver doing up here? Who are you?
Excuse me, ma'am.
I've heard of you and I've seen you, but you are up here fighting. And I was like, okay, ma'am, Moving on to Emma Felbermyr, she crossed the line in P3, but she was later disqualified for being underweight, which promoted Nina Gaidman to the final podium position. Nina Gaidman, therefore, scored her best F1 Academy finish to date in P3. Alicia Palmowski recovered to P8 despite a penalty stemming from her collision in early laps with Chloe Chambers. Chloe Chambers rebounded from damage to her front wing to finish in P10 or to finish P7. So she did finish in the points still, but she was on pole. It would have been her race. So, but that's okay, Chloe. It's okay. Rafael Ferreira and Alba Larson tangled in midfield battles, mixing up the order behind them. Maya Weug, the championship leader at the time going into the weekend, continued to battle mechanical gremlins and retired, deepening her title challenge woes. So, I mean, race 1 was just not it.
Not the gremlins and the woes. I know. Ugh.
We will move on to our race 2 recap, which is the reverse grid race. And again, that is the top 8. It is reversed. So if you qualified 8th, you are now in pole position and so on until 8th. And then after that, it's how you just qualified in general. So our winner was Emma Felbermyr, and then followed by Ella Lloyd and Nina Gaidman. And so our biggest mover this race was Alba Larson, who we've talked about before, and Maya Weug. Each gained 6 positions in the race, tying for the most spots gained for their starting position. So Ferrari seemed to have fixed the car this race. Things went a little bit better. So Maya was able to, when the car works, she was good. And yeah. So some things that happened in this race. Emma Felbermyr bounced back from her race 1 disqualification in the best possible way, taking her first F1 Academy win with a dramatic last lap overtake. That was insane. That was super dramatic. It's like 3 of them. It's literally Nina Gaidman was first on the last lap, and then it was Emma and Ella, and it was just chaos. Because these cars, they're so close. Like, I'm telling you, like in Formula 1, we get to just kind of watch. We're lucky if we get to watch 2 people battle. Imagine watching in 3, which is what we got. We did get that a little bit with Montreal between the McLaren drivers and almost Kimi Antonelli. But they're like on each other's ass. You're just like, oh my God, this is crazy. Because they stay pretty close together. So that was nuts. So starting from P3 on the reverse grid, Emma Felbermyr moved past Ella Lloyd early and spent most of the race chasing down Nina Gaidman, who had taken the lead on lap 1 after getting ahead of the pole sitter, Chloe Chong. A late race collision between teammates Nicole Haverda and Eva Anagnostiades brought out a safety car with just a few laps to go. When the race restarted for a 1-lap sprint to the finish, Felbermyr made her move into turn 9 and snatched the lead. Lloyd followed her through, giving Rodin Motorsport a 1-2 finish. Nina Gaidman held on to P3, securing her second podium of the weekend and completing an all-rookie top 3. So that's cool.
Fun.
Dorian Pond finished P4, just missing out on the podium, while Alicia Palmowski and Tina Hausman came home in P5 and P6, respectively. Leah Block rounded out the points in P8 after a close battle in the closing stages. Chloe Chambers spun on lap 5 and recovered to finish P14, unable to make up ground after the incident, which I was once again devastated. I was like, no, why? That was me. So, back to the girls. Felbermyr described the win as a moment of redemption after losing out in race 1 due to being underweight in post-race checks, which I think that's always devastating. Like, I still think of Spa last year with George Russell, which I still think was an amazing drive. I seriously, everybody gives George Russell shit, but that was extremely impressive. And it sucked that he was disqualified because of being underweight. And that, again, that's also because there is no lap after. So normally, you finish the race and you kind of have that lap afterwards. And
it's a cool down lap.
Yes.
And you get to pick up all the little marbles and pebbles of the rubber that's come off the tires, and they'll stick to your tires to help make up some of the weight, because obviously all that rubber has fallen off your tires. So the drivers will go and drive into that to pick it up to help kind of make the car weigh more.
Yeah. And George did not get to do that.
Yeah. For whatever reason, I think
Spa's long as fuck. It's in a very long track. Yeah. So they were like, nah, come in. Which I don't know that they ever do a cool down lap. I'm not familiar with that. So I guess We shall see. But so she was really happy because she was obviously disappointed when she was disqualified from race 1, and then she won race 2. So if there's any way to do it that way.
Yeah, and coming in underweight is especially frustrating because it's not like it's really the driver's fault.
Exactly.
Most of the time it's the fault of the team for not properly calculating.
Yeah.
And knowing what they need to do to make sure they make the weight. Because trust me, they make these very precise calculations based on like the driver's weight and how much water they anticipate them losing during the race and how the tires are going to wear and how much fuel they're going to put in the car. Like all of that factors in, and they calculate all of that for the car to be like as light as possible toward the end of the race while still making weight. So anytime somebody doesn't make weight, it's almost it's not the driver's fault.
Yeah,
which sucks.
Exactly. Okay, so we will move on to our last race of the weekend. It was race 3, which is like the actual grid that was set in qualifying. Our winner was Chloe Chambers, followed by Ella Lloyd and Dorian Pond. I was so excited.
Chloe got her redemption.
Yes, she did. So our biggest mover was Maya Weug. She went from 15th to 6th, gaining 9 positions. A very impressive recovery after the car troubles she faced throughout the entire weekend. I think it's just a testament to it was the car, clearly not Maya. Let me tell you something. While that race was going on, we were in here putting all this up, and we were listening on the iPad, and we had been watching or whatever, and I knew that Chloe had already won, and we were excited or whatever. And all of a sudden, I hear our national anthem. So we're American. And if you didn't know, and I'm like, oh my God, it's our anthem. They never have our anthem.
We never hear it at the podium celebrations.
So that was very exciting.
Yeah.
So some things that happened in this race. Chloe Chambers took her first win of the season, leading from pole and handling multiple safety car restarts to seal a dominant victory. Ella Lloyd finished P2 for the 3rd straight race, with Dorian Pond climbing back to P3 to retain the championship lead. Early contact shuffled the order a bit, so Palmowski kind of spun and she kind of had to regain her footing, and Dorian Pond briefly dropped back to 5th before she, finishes 3rd. There were 3 safety cars this race, including incidents involving the wildcard driver Paatz, Leah Block, Ferreira, Felbermyr, and Courtney Crone. So there was a lot. I think this was the race where there were 5 DNFs. It was rough, y'all. It was crazy. So Maya Weug charged from P15 to P6, salvaging key points after a tough weekend. Dorian Pond now leads with 109 points. Chambers sits 2nd with 89, and Maya Weug sits 3rd with 72. So there's a bit of a gap, but we are only, I think this was technically the halfway mark. So we still have plenty of racing to go. That was crazy. I was like, oh my God. I was like, 1 second they wrecked, and then I was like, oh, okay, it's over with. I was like, wait, what's happening over here?
Another one.
There's more. I think everybody was just like, it just felt charged. Mm-hmm. Everyone's like, you know what? We're going for it. Fuck it.
They were going a little too crazy. Trying to take them curbs a little too much.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we are going to do our wildcard driver highlight. So I mentioned earlier, every round we get a wildcard entry. So it's a driver that is there only for that one race weekend. So this season, High-Tech TGR joined F1 Academy. So they're the team, and they have 2 full-time drivers, and then their 3rd seat is the wildcard entry. So every time there's a wildcard entry, they fill that seat for that team. This weekend's wildcard entry was Mathilda Paatz. She's a German driver who began a career in European and world-level karting. She made her jump to single-seaters by competing in the French F4 Championship, and this season she's been racing in the F4 either CES or CEZ Championship. Either one of those is surely right. And she earned her first podium of the season with a 2nd place finish at the Red Bull Ring. So this round of F1 Academy in Canada, Gatorade sponsored the wildcard entry as part of their new partnership with F1 Academy. And so she drove the number 8 Gatorade car run by High-Tech TGR. She said she's beyond excited to be the wildcard driver and shared how growing up she was inspired by the passion and pride drivers share for their teams.
Yeah, and something to note too, another reason, like I think it's like 3 or 4 of the current rookies on the grid were wild cards last season. So like Alicia Palmowski, Nina Gaidman, Ella Lloyd. And so if you do get picked to be a wild card driver on F1 Academy, if you perform well, there's a pretty big chance you'll get picked to be a part of F1 Academy.
That's a pretty high percentage chance that if you're a wild card driver that
I'm pretty sure I missed one too. Like I'm pretty sure it was like 4 or 5 of the rookies came from the wild card entry.
That's well over 50% of the wild card entries from last year got full-time seats this year in F1 Academy, which is nuts. So yeah, I mean, if you're picked, I mean, make the most of your moment. Like, get in there, girl. Do your thing. So looking at Mathilda Paatz's weekend in Canada, in free practice, she was 16th. In qualifying, she came P14. She didn't finish race 1, but up until that point, she had shown the strongest pace of any wildcard driver this season. And after climbing up to 10th and battling with Alicia Palmowski and Courtney Crone, she became a victim of the wall of champions on lap 10, which brought her race to an early end. So in race 2, she finished 11th, gaining 3 places, and in race 3, in race 3, she spun off at turn 7 early in the opening lap, triggering a safety car. Ooh, so she was one of our 3 safety cars.
Yes. Now, it was insane in race 1 because typically the wildcard driver does tend to stay in the back. But she was fighting with Alicia Palmowski, and Alicia Palmowski, as we said earlier, is the Red Bull driver. She is a rookie this year. She was a wildcard driver last year, but she's been a really strong contender, like, for the championship. I mean, even though, I mean, she's not in the top 3 at the moment, but she's battling the top drivers. And so to see her battling Alicia it was very impressive. And I mean, you know, she's still very, very new. Everybody was pretty impressed on the broadcast as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw her as a rookie next year, just because, I mean, that in itself was really impressive. And that's what I think people have to remember. This is an academy. It is not Formula 3. It is not Formula 2. Everybody's here to like learn. So I think you might look at it and say, oh, well, she wrecked. Well, but she was 10th, battling like some pretty good drivers up until that point. And then you can look at someone like that and go, what can we teach her from there? And I think that's really the mindset you kind of have to adopt when you watch this, is like, wow, that's somebody I might be able to like nurture and teach.
You're much more focusing on the positives and looking for the strengths as opposed to only focusing on the weaknesses.
Yeah.
You're actually looking for because again, like you said, the purpose of it is to develop drivers.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, what can we work with? Is this a raw lump of clay we can shape and mold? Like, or is this somebody who we just won't be able to teach anything?
Exactly.
And so you're much more looking for, it's one of those cases where, I mean, we've talked about like in F1 Red Bull, they are looking for a particular type of driver who's going to push it to the limit, and they would much rather you send it and go for it and crash out as opposed to being like scared and not going for it. And, not every team is like that, but they also have a lot of money, right? to replace and fix their cars. So I think that with F1 Academy, I think it's a little more of that sort of mindset of like, we want to see you push it and go for it and really try. And if you do crash out or, have an incident, then, that's not the end of the world.
No, and especially where that particular incident was. I mean, it's called the Wall of Champions for a reason. Champion winning drivers have crashed in that wall, all within the same races where it got its name from back in the day before any of us were even born. So I would not be shocked if we saw her in F1 Academy next year. So yeah, it was interesting. The car was really cool. I was like, but I also love orange. But anyway, we can move on to our standings update. Our top 5 drivers we have our first driver is Dorian with 109 points, followed by Chloe Chambers at 89 points, Maya Weug at 72 points, Ella Lloyd at 67 points, and then Alicia Palmowski at 53 points. Our team standings have changed. Prima Racing now leads with 178 points, followed by Campos Racing at 151 points, then MP Motorsports at 122 points. So Prima was like, see y'all later.
Okay, now we're going to do our driver spotlights. So every time we recap and review an F1 Academy race, we not only spotlight and talk about the wildcard driver, but we also pick one of the permanent full-time drivers to kind of go a little more in depth on them. So this week, our spotlight is on Ella Lloyd, who's racing under Road and Motorsport and is sponsored by McLaren. So she finished on the podium in all 3 races in Montreal, securing second place each time.
That was nuts.
Always a bridesmaid.
But I'm like, second
Still
each
really
time?
good.
Like, that's crazy.
Still consistent.
Very consistent.
She's Mrs. Consistent.
That's right.
Now, a little background information about Miss Ella Lloyd. She went for being a decorated show jumper and a gold medalist at the Welsh Skiing Championship to scoring points in 15 of 25 races during her car racing debut in the 2022 Ginetta Junior Championship.
That's actually nuts.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. To literally go from skiing to going, I'm going to race cars. What the hell?
Adrenaline junkie, I guess.
I guess. Good on her.
So despite never karting competitively, she progressed quickly and found immediate success in the Ginetta GT Championship. She earned 10 wins, 10 pole positions, and 7 additional podiums on her way to becoming vice champion in the pro class. In 2024, she stepped into single-seaters and competed in British F4, where she scored 4 podiums and finished 11th in the overall standings. She made her F1 Academy debut as the wildcard entry in Singapore, where she finished in the points twice with P9 and P7, which were impressive results on her first outing at the Marina Bay Street Circuit.
That's actually really nuts.
She seems to have gotten success quickly.
Yeah. Like, the same way Alba Larson had gotten a lot of success quickly, but like this is pretty insane.
She went from skiing, never karting, and then 2 seasons was like, I'm gonna just go into F4 and start getting some podiums.
I hate that. I love it for her.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I can't even pick up a new hobby. And when I do it, I'm not immediately good at it. I'm like, peace out.
So in 2025, she was inducted into the McLaren Driver Development Program and also took part in Formula E's first ever women's test. Racing with the Welsh Dragon on her helmet, Lloyd now returns to British F4 while also competing in F1 Academy with Road and Motorsport.
She was really impressive to me. I mean, and this isn't her first podium. I think she actually won earlier this season. It was just, that is consistent. Like, that's what you want, is somebody who's like, if they're not winning, you still want them up there. Like that, I don't know. She just was like, every 2 seconds, I'm like, there she is.
Again.
There she is again. So now looking ahead, we've got a bit of a break before round 5 of the F1 Academy season, which returns at Zandvoort on August 29th. So we have
like 2 months.
We have a while. So the championship watch. So Dorian now leads the Drivers' Championship with a solid 20-point gap over Chloe Chambers, but there's still plenty of racing left. And Chloe, Maya, or even Ella Lloyd could still mount a challenge. Personally, I'm backing Chloe Chambers. I think she's just, watch out. I mean, it's just nuts because you see like a gap like that and you go, oh, and you just, because the first race, the points are like cut in half, the reverse grid race, and then the main race is kind of how Formula 1 is, so it's 25 points. I'm like, there's still plenty. They got 2 races a weekend. Chloe, let's go, girl.
All it takes is 1 race weekend. As we saw, the championship went from a 1-point difference between first and second in the driver standings to now there's a 24-point difference in 1 race weekend. So the standings could change very quickly.
Exactly. I mean, Maya went from leading to being 3rd. And that was just based on like car issues, which is no fault of her own. So, I mean, it can change very quickly. But let us know who you guys are putting your money on. Who are you rooting for the championship? Who do you see getting that bag?
Yeah.
But anyway, so the last thing we can talk about for like just 1 second is, if you're not already aware, F1 The Academy, it is out now. It has been out since the end of May. We will be doing a review on it. We'll have time to do it before they return.
We got 2 months, surely.
Yeah, I've finished it. I think you have just a few episodes left. So if you're not aware what it is basically a documentary about the 2024 season of F1 Academy, where you get to delve into what their lives are like driving these cars, really seeing what they deal with, what the environment's like. I would say it is nothing like Drive to Survive. Obviously, there are cars there. I just don't think the storytelling devices are the same. I think if you're into a more documentary style series, you would enjoy this. there's some drama, but it's just not the same. I would just Drive to Survive sort of gives a little bit more reality TV at times, but it's still filmed in a very like pleasant cinematic type way. That's like a documentary, and it does document things. F1 The Academy is a lot more documentary style to me. So if you enjoy that, I think you'd like it. It's a really cool way to kind of delve into the world, get to know it, and become familiar with some of the drivers. A lot of the drivers that were there have moved on, but yeah. So
And that's out on Netflix.
Yes, it is out on Netflix. So I guess that wraps it up, though.
Yes.
Yeah, we will talk at you in August after Zandvoort. Bye.